right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, it is our second installment of Missing Pieces, a new mini-series that we are doing to help fill the void during our collective quarantine where there's not really that many new release movies for us to cover, so we're looking back at older movies. And I am letting some of my returning co-hosts, as well as some new co-hosts, recommend movies for us to cover that came out in the last, I've been telling people, 3 to 30 years. That's because, let's get down to it, what this series really is all about. It's movies we couldn't have covered on the podcast because they came out before we started this podcast. So we're cutting it off 3 years. So that way it's not something that we might have covered already. And then going to 20, 30 years back, just so that way we're not talking about, some movie from the 70s and we have to look back even further from that to try to find puzzle pieces. We want to have a nice, long history of many decades of movies to look back to try to find puzzle pieces during. So 3 to 30 years seems like a good amount of time to have our guests pick movies from. And so for this one, our returning co-host, Chad Clinton Freeman, who you've heard on the show many, many, many times, picked a movie from 2014 called Jamie Marks is Dead, which I certainly had never heard of. And it was a pretty good movie. I'm really glad that he picked this one, and I got a chance to experience a movie that I almost definitely would have never experienced. If you've never seen this movie, Jamie Marks is Dead, I'd recommend you go watch it first before listening to this conversation. We don't get into too many spoilers, a little bit here and there, but mainly we tried to keep things a little bit spoiler-free because not many people have seen this movie. So I would recommend you go watch it and then listen to this great conversation we have with a bunch of great puzzle pieces. And then we talk about, of course, because this is Missing Pieces, we also talk about some movies that came since this movie in 2014 that maybe the filmmakers had seen this and maybe it rubbed off on them a little bit. So I want to remind you, as always, please make sure you're subscribed to Piecing It Together on your podcast app of choice. You can, of course, rate and review us on Podchaser or Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media at Piecing Pod, and join the Facebook group Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces. Also, if you're out there listening and you'd like to join me for an episode, whether it's a new movie, which there's not that many of, but we're still going to try to do them, or one of these older movies for a Missing Pieces episode, get in touch. I'd love to talk to you. Always looking for new co-hosts to join me here on the show. So, without any further ado, let's get into this conversation about Jamie Marks is Dead. All right, so joining me for another episode of Missing Pieces, I've got with us our good buddy Chad Clinton Freeman. How's it going, Chad?
Oh, it's going great.
Are you doing well in your quarantine life, the new lifestyle that we're all in right now?
And truthfully, not a whole lot's changed. I mean, I'm watching movies like crazy still. So I mean. Maybe this has affected the only thing is I don't get to go to a movie, but I mean, I'm still pretty much, watching movies several a day. I mean, it's
if
not
Chad
rare.
ever stops watching several movies a day, then we know we're all in trouble.
Yeah. So it's not weird for me on a normal day after work to watch 4 movies. I know that watching 4 movies is probably what some are just doing with their whole day right now, but these people might catch up to me, but we'll see.
So for this one, I obviously with this series, I'm letting my guests pick the movie, and you suggested this movie, Jamie Marks is Dead, which I don't think I had ever really heard of. Where'd you find this movie?
This was a movie actually just I found it on Prime Video a couple of years ago. It actually was a Sundance movie. Obviously it was.
I saw that.
It obviously didn't make a lot of noise at the time. But I think from when it came out 2014, I think we're totally a little bit of different times. I mean, I think this would have got snatched up by Neon or A24, and
Sure.
had a possible, limited theatrical release. It might have got a little bit better push, and people, would probably be better aware of it. But yeah, this was one of them that came to mind when you mentioned this, because I was like, this is a great movie, and I don't think a lot of people know about it, or have heard about it. But yeah, I rewatched it since we were doing this, and yeah, I love this movie. It's pretty fabulous.
One other thing before we start jumping into some puzzle pieces, the filmmaker or the actor, were you very familiar with any of these people involved with this? The actors or Carter Smith, the director?
Not really Carter Smith. I mean, I know he did The Ruins, but I didn't know that going into this, actually. And then the actor, it would just so happen, I forget his name, but he's the one who plays Jerome on the Gotham show, which is
Oh, okay.
the basically their version of the Joker. I forget the guy's name, but the redheaded guy.
Mm.
And I guess he's on another show too. The name of that show escapes me.
Shameless.
Yes, that's the one. Yep, yep.
Right, yeah, Cameron Monaghan.
Yeah. That's it. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either going into this, but yeah, so he's got a few things he's known, but yeah,
Yeah.
certainly
No,
hadn't heard of many of these people going into it though.
right.
And it's an interesting movie. I'm glad you picked it, but let's jump into some puzzle pieces. What do you got for your first one?
My pieces are all over the place, and I know you said we were only going to do about five. I've got way
Sure.
more than that, so I wanted to make sure pick my first one as be one that I feel like kind of nails this movie altogether. What I thought of, one is how this movie, it's like set in reality, but then at the same time, it's like fantasy in a way.
Sure.
And for me, I totally just go along with that. I mean, there's some pretty wacky stuff when you sit and think about it, but
Right.
it works. It's like they set up the kind of the rules of the film, and as long as they follow that, then you're on board. And that just reminded me of the butterfly effect a lot. The way, in the butterfly effect, of course, he has this book and he's able to do some sort of time travel, and it's
Mhm.
otherwise a set in reality grounded movie. Is another movie that I absolutely love. And there's some dark stuff in the film. This one where you've got, being able to walk into his closet and then all of a sudden travel to another person's house in that closet, and then that's connected to other parts of the city. I mean, it's just like, it makes up its own rules in that way. And I think the same way how the butterfly effect, he's able to use this journal, this notebook, in order to time travel. And
Right.
like I said, it's just like, so if you stop and think about it, it's like, wait a second, it totally is not realistic, but both were realistic movies, and they have that sort of, I don't know, fantasy, sci-fi side to them that, because of the film being so well made, it just works somehow. And I know that that could go horribly wrong, but I
Right.
just felt the butterfly effect was like the perfect kind of film that does that same sort of thing.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think that's a great puzzle piece. And I mean, I think the easiest way to describe this movie, Jamie Marks is Dead, is a supernatural teen coming of age drama, basically. And it's an interesting mix of genres, to
Oh
try to
yeah,
combine
definitely.
those things. I think it works best when it's kind of one or the other, but I mean, it does do a pretty good job, though, of riding that line between the 2 genres.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that I think I like movies that go all over the place and bend genres, and I
Sure.
think that is something that Butterfly Effect does as well. And again, it is all over the place. You missed bromance in your naming of this
Sure.
film, its genre, but yeah, it's very much a bromance, that almost
I would
borderlines
I
on
would
romance.
I was gonna say I would go a step further. I do think this is like a gay teen coming of age drama. Like I do think that there is a love affair to it, like under the
Right.
surface, that maybe
Right.
they were just a little scared to go all the way into.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, totally.
So, all right. Well, that is a perfect jumping off point, and it leads really nicely into my first puzzle piece. So these are, spoiler alert, of
I'm gonna guess. I'm
course.
gonna guess. I'm gonna guess. It's dude. Where's my car? Because it's another
Yes,
Ashton
because
Kutcher movie.
yes, absolutely. This is just going to be a long list of Ashton Kutcher movies. Next up, Steve Jobs. Uh, no. I was gonna say that in this movie, spoiler alert, but they are, they're basically ghosts like that are finding each other. The Jamie Marks is dead, and he is a
Right.
ghost, and there's a
Spoiler
whole
alert!
relationship.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah,
Jamie Marks is
spoiler
dead.
alert. It's right there. It's right there, people. But so we're getting a teen coming of age drama with a ghost, and I thought of the Twilight series,
Mm.
which is, of course, this whole teen coming of age with vampires and werewolves and all this other crazy shit that goes on. And those movies, like them or not, they have all of the same kind of aspects. And I know this was based on a book. I don't know if it's a book that would be considered, quote unquote YA
It
or,
is. It
or
is.
whatever.
It is.
It is.
It was a YA book. So
Yeah, that makes total sense then. And yeah, and I think I think it kind of maybe skews towards that same kind of audience. There's even little things such as some of the music choices, like there's some cool like indie style rock tracks playing in the background of scenes and stuff like that. And I think that that's definitely going for a similar kind of an audience in some aspects of it, while also reaching for some maybe a little bit more elevated ideas along the way.
yeah, well, so I still have not seen the Twilight movies. That
Mhm.
actually is on my list of film series that are out there that I need to watch. Um,
Mhm.
but no, I totally get that because it's funny as you were talking about that, it just popped in my head. But the Netflix show that Eli Roth did, Hemlock Grove, which basically kind of, I think is like a rougher Twilight. It's
Mhm.
basically a little more violent and graphic, bloody, but very much along the same kind of lines of. I think that's was basically what they wanted to do. They just wanted to make a darker Twilight. But so I can totally see that what you're saying there. But yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
that only makes me want to watch Twilight even more now. So
Well,
that's
if
my
if we've
takeaway from
accom
this episode.
yeah, if we've accomplished anything, we've got Chad planning his Twilight marathon. So so what do you got for your next piece, Chad?
Well, so I'll kind of jump off from that because that is one of the really interesting things about this movie is the film murder mystery. You forgot to throw that in there with your genre,
Sure.
but yeah. So the movie's a kind of a murder mystery, and it has almost. Especially just the way it opens, it has almost this kind of horror feeling to it. I mean,
Mm.
for whatever reason, I kept feeling like My Soul to Take, which was a Wes Craven movie, which I actually liked a lot. Nobody else really seemed to like it. But not just My Soul to Take, but even something like It Follows, even. It just kind of has, I think maybe it's because it's the teenager aspect, and then also it's
Mhm.
it's kind of a gritty like setting like with especially with the bridge and the woods as to where Jamie Marks his body is found, just those aspects really it opens almost like it is going to be a horror movie in a lot of ways.
Right.
I think that's just one of the tricks to it. I think to get people that maybe are sitting down to want to watch a horror movie, trick them into watching this movie, which is, like you said, is pretty much a romance in a lot of
Sure.
ways.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I haven't seen My Soul to Take in many, many years, but anytime I can talk about Wes Craven and how great any of his movies are, I'm going to do it on this show. So,
For sure.
like I
For
said, just
sure.
something about the feeling of this reminded me of that.
I hadn't thought of It Follows, but It Follows, of course, famously has just an incredible score that is, at least I certainly strive to do music that, that's that evocative of that kind of sound. But funny enough, watching this movie, the opening score of this movie sounded so much like my new album Beater,
Ah,
insert plug. But seriously, it sounded so much like one of the tracks on the album. I was like, wait a minute, am I watching the right thing right now? Like, I was like, holy shit,
you
that's
accidentally
crazy.
turned on your music. No.
Yeah.
I love the score of this movie. I thought it works really well with this
Yeah, it was
film.
good.
And yeah, that's the thing. This movie opens really, really well. I think the score, just the look, the feel of the film. That's the thing. This is a big time like atmosphere movie. Again, how I
Sure.
said how I could have seen had this been a couple of years later, Neon or A24 grabbing it. It has very much an atmosphere to it. How all of their movies have those strong, atmospheres. So.
Totally. Absolutely. All right, I'll go with another piece here. I am gonna go with you know what? I'm actually gonna combine two.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with both The Sixth Sense
Mhm.
and The Frighteners.
Mm.
Both movies in which ghosts need a human to help them with with solving their story and completing their task on Earth before they can rest, kind of thing.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're going for here with this particular story. There's this there's a mystery to how he died. There's a mystery to what he's got left, but what his attachments are, how he's going to be remembered, and he needs a human to help him, and he's had this infatuation with this one human who he latches onto and gets to help him with his journey, his afterlife journey.
Right. Yeah, well, and not just him though, because you've got the other character,
Right.
the girl who is also a ghost. She's kind of this Lizzie Borden kind of character. She is stuck in a loop, which is crazy, that she kills her parents every morning.
I can relate.
And this is just a little side like shoehorn story that's in here, and the one ghost I think helps her to move to the other side. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of that about um, ghosts with unfinished business. That was an aspect to it that I did like a lot, and it turns out that the unfinished business is something so very
Right.
simple, which I really appreciated about this movie, the way that it was. I was trying to think of good ones. Of course, Sixth Sense was one that popped
Mhm.
into my head, but just to tag along to what you were saying, actually, The Ring was one because The Ring goes totally the other direction, which is usually how it is in
Sure.
movies, where it's some sort of revenge. This one does totally go more the Sixth Sense route. Although everybody knows Jamie Marks is dead, he knows he's dead. Uh, and it really is though a great film though, just about I would say friendship and also love, and how something so little can mean so much. So um just to expand on that. That was not my puzzle piece though, the ring. So don't count that in my 5.
Okay. What do you got next then?
Okay.
I will put it on the list though.
Okay. So I've got 2. This is going to be a shocker, I know. Okay. So don't faint. I've got 2 Keanu Reeves movies. All right.
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Keanu Reeves. I did like some of his earlier films. And so I'm actually going to talk about 2 of them. I combine them because they are both Keanu Reeves movies. One of them is River's Edge, which is a late '80s movie.
Mm-hmm.
River's Edge about it's teenagers, and it's a guy kills his girlfriend down by the river by a bridge, and he brings his friends to see the dead body, and then of course it turns into people wanting to keep a secret, people not wanting to keep a secret, but the setup of this one, and it's very very similar in that way. The feel of it too, with basically, you're dealing with teenagers. You're also dealing with some sort of murder. You're dealing with these elements. And also, like I said, I don't know why, but these came to me at the same time. The other one was Keanu Reeves. Probably my favorite movie that he's ever been in, River Phoenix movie, My Own Private Idaho, which is a bromance kind of love affair as well. You have in that movie, you've got 2 guys. They go around having sex for money with guys, but the one is actually straight and he only has sex with guys for money. But the one who is gay, he is actually in love with the other guy. But it's just something that, as a friendship, they have a bond. The one wants it to be more, but it's just not going to happen. It's not going to go there. And in many ways, again, you're dealing with teenagers, and I just felt like that both of those films, it's almost like both of those, a mesh of them, you know gave us this film here, Jamie Marks Is Dead.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm so proud of you for bringing up Keanu Reeves movies.
Those are probably the Keanu Reeves movies that people that like Keanu Reeves do not include, but those are his best movies, in my opinion.
Yeah, well played. Well played. All right, so I am gonna go with another piece. So this one's just more about the whole starting with an opening where there's a murder, and then people are just kind of gossiping about that murder throughout the rest of the movie. The first one that came to mind was Scream. So I don't know if
I got you, because I mean, hello, my soul to take. I get you.
So that happened in there too. I don't think I've ever actually seen My Soul to Take.
Well, no, but it's Wes Craven, so
sure,
and teenagers,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, this kind of has a Wes Craven vibe going on to it. I don't know what it is, but yeah, definitely does.
Yeah,
but, so yeah,
teenagers, death, murder, and and a lot of gossip, a lot of school, a lot of shitty kids.
Right.
Yeah, lots of good Wes Craven stuff.
Funny thing that I actually just rewatched Scream 4 just the other day. Of the Scream movies, I love Wes Craven, but of his films, the Scream movies I don't love, but I always want to. I want to like them more. But 4 is actually one of the better ones, I think. I mean,
Interesting.
I don't know if that's not the cool thing or whatever, because I mean, I would say 4 and 1 are probably the best of the series. But anyway, I just didn't recall me actually thinking 4 was as good as it ended up being.
I
But
don't remember particularly disliking it, but
it's definitely
I don't know.
fun, and I think it revives the series, whereas I feel 2 and 3 kind of were beating a dead horse in a way.
Mm,
And then it kind of gives it like a nice while also doing what the first one did. I mean, it's basically like a reboot, basically. Um,
sure.
but yeah, so we're getting all way off topic here. But yeah,
Just
no.
a little bit. So what do you got next?
Well, it's funny because this was one that was on here, and I did a couple of connections. I mean, just when you were talking about Scream, this one came back to mind, and then I realized it's also another Keanu Reeves movie. I don't
Oh,
know what's going on.
wow.
Actually, my favorite Sam Raimi movie, and I know that's blasphemy, The Gift,
Mm,
the Katie Holmes movie with the murder mystery, and it's very much kind of it's a Southern Gothic. I kind of feel like that this one kind of has a little bit of that feeling
sure.
to it. But again, something about this, I mean, it's funny we're hitting on all these like horror thrillers. I don't know if that one's a horror or a thriller or what people consider it, but
Right.
just something about that one came to mind, and then I didn't even realize it till you just mentioned Scream, that it tied back to what I was just talking about with the Keanu Reeves films. But anyway,
Sure.
uh,
I love it. I love it. I love all these Keanu Reeves movies. I haven't seen The Gift since it first came out, but I kind of remember it having a very similar tone to
yeah,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Just doesn't have like the whole like Cajun vibe that the Gift had. You know,
Sure.
I remember like violins and yeah, you know, it's a very kind of artsy kind of horror thriller. So and that's definitely what this is.
Artsy is a very good lead into my next puzzle piece.
Ah,
I am going to go with, for my next piece, American Beauty.
mm,
I think
that's a
there
good
is
one.
there's a lot of just kind of pretty people that are just very depressed and talking monotone with very deep things that they have to say and get off their chest, and they're just kind of sitting in rooms just talking about life a lot, about the greater experiences of life and all, and just how hard everything is, and how difficult things have been, and how they crave connection and all that kind
Mm.
of stuff, and that was like a major thing with the way American Beauty played out, especially with all the scenes with Wes Bentley and Thora Birch.
No, definitely. Yeah, that I hadn't thought of that one, but yeah, no, that is a really good one. The yeah, the wanting to connect, and also the just like trying to like figure out yourself, and
Sure.
trying to, just navigate teenage years, and
Yeah.
just understand yourself and understand other people, and how you work with them. No, I think that is a really good piece there. No, definitely.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, what do you got next?
My first one, I mentioned how there's kind of like this fantasy like element to this, with the closet and being able to travel through it. Time Bandits. You know,
Time
time
Bandits.
Time
All right.
Bandits. Yeah, I don't remember. It's a long time since I watched that movie. I need to rewatch that movie. I know my brother. He loves that movie. He probably watches it once a year. I don't think I've seen it since VHS days. But the whole thing with if I remember right, these little people like come out of the kid's closet, and then there's some sort of portal like in his house. I can't remember if it's his closet or if it's wall or whatever. And then he just like they leave, and then he like goes through the portal and like is off on this crazy adventure through time. So, again, it's funny going another time travel movie I'm mentioning when there is no time travel in this,
Right,
but
right.
just the fantasy there of being able to portal in some way.
Sure.
It definitely works. But the closet, and again, that probably is uh more so just there for the whole metaphor of being a gay teenager and trying to understand sexuality and your sexuality, but at the same
Sure.
time, that to me added such a cool just fantasy element to it that I really really liked. And I think it's only maybe once or twice that it's even done, but for me it's totally something that I just ate up about the film. So
Sure. Absolutely. I love that. I've never actually seen Time Bandits. That's one of the
oh,
Terry
you're
Gilliam
missing
movies I
out.
haven't seen. I
You're
really
missing
should
out.
see that.
I
Yeah,
need to
that's on my
rewatch it.
list.
I need to rewatch it, and you need to watch it. But
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
I don't own it at all. Like I said, it's one of my brother's favorite movies. I think he rewatches it every year.
Nice.
He's even like visited where, because I think it was in Hawaii, one of the pirate ship scenes or something from the movie. He's even like been to that location, and anyway,
Mm.
um, but no, it's a it's a bizarre movie, especially for kids. And I remember we loved that movie as a kid. He still does.
Yeah. Awesome, awesome. Well, for my last piece, I'm realizing now it really could have just been thrown in together with the Frighteners and the Sixth Sense, but it's Beetlejuice.
Ah,
The reason I think I was thinking of it separately is just the idea of some of the ghosts being like kind of locked to a specific place,
mhm,
and that's where they kind of exist and have to continue doing things. But I guess
right.
that's kind of explored in maybe a little bit in The Sixth Sense as well. And I'm not sure. I haven't seen The Frighteners in a while, but definitely in The Sixth Sense though.
Yeah, Frighteners is one I think I saw once. I don't remember a whole lot about it. Um, but I see that as well. I mean, you've also again you've got the same elements too, though, with the um, teenage girl who's again in the same kind of situation as our main character here, as to trying to figure out things, and then this like I mean, really, when you think about it, you can almost think about like so many movies where that is the element, and then it goes into this whole like magical world, like, which is
Sure,
what Beetlejuice does. But then you could even see like Labyrinth or Never Ending Story, even, you know what I
sure.
mean?
Pan's Labyrinth.
Yep, exactly. So I mean, that's one of the things though that I find so interesting about this one, is that this one could have gone in those ways, and it's like a small version of those kind of movies, because they do actually go like on this like little adventure, where they go to the farmhouse, and
Sure.
the crazy girl scares them off, and then they go to where the tunnel is, where all the other ghosts are, or at least is like where they travel to the other side.
Mm,
So I mean, it's got a lot of these elements of these movies that we're talking about, whether it be like road trip movies or magic adventure movies, and it's done on a small scale. So
right. Right on. Well, I think that does it. Did you want to squeeze in any last minute puzzle piece before I do the
Yeah,
finished puzzle?
actually, yeah, and Carrie. I was thinking of Carrie
Okay,
because just the opening of Carrie reminded me a lot of the flashback of him seeing, Jamie being bullied by,
sure.
he of course doesn't take part in it. He just witnesses it, but that element, instead of it being from the perspective like in the opening of Carrie, it being from her point of view, he is an onlooker to it who does not act, and then of course
Right.
that ends up being something that really eats at him, and is the guilt that really, I think, propels his character throughout the film. But I definitely feel like in a lot of ways this film obviously loves horror movies, and I think it toys with a lot of different things from horror movies, but Carrie was definitely one I thought of.
Yeah, that's actually a good observation. I feel like this is a movie directed by someone who horror is their favorite genre, but they wanted to make a drama, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just in the DNA of it. But
Right.
I'm gonna go ahead and do the finished puzzle, and that includes The Butterfly Effect, the Twilight series, My Soul to Take, It Follows, The Sixth Sense, The Frighteners, The Ring, River's Edge, My Own Private Idaho, Scream, The Gift, American Beauty, Time Bandits, Beetlejuice, and Carrie. So we got a great list of movies there, but what we're going to do, this being a missing pieces episode, we're going to also come up with a couple of extra movies that have come since this movie came out in 2014 that we think maybe were inspired a little bit by Jamie Marx's Dead. What do you got first?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with a movie we've actually already done a show on, but gives me an excuse to talk about it.
Nice.
Actually, the Peanut Butter Falcon, because the Peanut Butter Falcon is a movie, a weird, odd couple who go on this adventure. Again, like I said, this is kind of it. It is an odd couple. You've got the social outcast, and then you've got the popular, athlete who everyone
Mhm.
seems to love. And then they go on like this small kind of adventure. You've got the one character who is totally just driven he's just has all this guilt that is built up inside him,
Mhm.
and he's able to, I think, forgive himself by the end of the film. And he's helping Jamie Marks basically go through his journey, and at the same time, though, he is, growing, and also being able to forgive himself,
Sure.
and not just, be guilty about the death of Jamie, which was not his fault at all. So, Peanut Butter Falcon, you've got Shia LaBeouf's character who is guilty, in regards to his brother, who he accidentally killed in a car wreck,
Right.
and through, somebody who's totally his opposite, he has this, just basically journey where he not only learns to, you know love and befriend somebody who's totally not like himself, but also, forgive himself. So I think
Yeah.
a lot of ways is very, very similar. That's also a film that's very kind of like a grounded fantasy. It's like
Yeah, a little
almost
bit.
like a southern fantasy almost. But yeah, I think that that's definitely a good one that has come since this film.
Awesome. I like it. That's a really good pick. I'm gonna go with you had mentioned way back at the beginning of this conversation about the whole this kind of feels like a A24
Right.
neon film, and of course I'm gonna bring up a ghost story,
Yep.
which is another very melancholy kind of uh, you know really I guess melancholy is the best word for it, but people are just very much ruminating on what moving on means, what life is, what death is, what love is, there's a lot of just really dry moments to it, and really just morose kind of
Right.
experience to the movie, and a lot of the cinematography as well, just being like very. Of course, this isn't in the 3:4 or whatever the hell it is
Right.
that one
Right.
is shot in, but it's got like a very very monochrome look to it, and also the way that people talk in it as well.
Well, I definitely had written a ghost story down as well.
Hmm.
And I think also the way ghost story doesn't basically tell you what the story is. It doesn't really like. I mean, it's not
Sure,
necessarily a plot-driven movie, and it doesn't
sure,
basically say, "Okay, well, here's what you're supposed to take away." It leaves you like thinking about what you watched and kind of coming up with your own thoughts about it.
sure.
I think this one more so cues you in on some things than than a ghost story does. But
Yeah,
I think very much this one's definitely in the same area of that film,
sure.
as far as just giving you something to think about and process, which I
Absolutely.
really love that about movies when you can watch it and then somehow just keep getting pulled back to it and thinking about it and wanting to watch it again.
Sure.
This is actually probably the fourth time that I've watched this movie. I don't know
Wow.
what it is. It definitely just pulls me back. I don't know why, but there's so many things to it that I do really like. Um, but yeah, I totally agree with the ghost story.
Awesome. Do you have any more?
Well, I was thinking because I'd mentioned like the ring and how, for the most part, when you're talking about ghosts, when you're talking about unfinished business, you mostly are talking about basically bad ghosts, and
Right, right.
evil. Um, eh, you've got a movie like Crimson Peak, though. That was one that I thought of.
Oh yeah, that could
That
work for sure.
Yeah, where the ghosts aren't there to do harm. They may seem scary and menacing, but they aren't the thing that you have to be worried about, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And so I mean in this one, you've got the girl who obviously is very scared of the ghost. The girl who finds him at the beginning, she finds his dead body. And of course she has a secret that we don't know till later on. And I'm not going to spoil this because I know nobody's seen this movie. So
Right. Yeah.
watch this movie after you listen to this episode. That's why we're doing our best not to spoil anything here.
Yeah.
But she she fears the ghost, whereas the other character, he's just wanting to basically help. He's wanting
Mhm.
to know what happened, and then he realizes, very very quickly that I've got nothing to fear here. And he's giving this ghost his clothes and stuff like that. Another interesting thing, how ghosts can wear clothes, and nobody seems to see clothes walking around in public. You know what I
Let's
mean?
just let that slide for
No. But again, there's some of those things that are just so like when you stop and think about it, like just like the butterfly effect, but it works somehow. So but yeah. So I Crimson Peak, of course, is a movie that I love. I know you were
Yeah.
kind of not as big on me.
Lukewarm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
that's one where it's a very fantastical movie too,
Mhm.
with the ghosts. Del Toro, of course, is a big uh, uh, person who believes in, monsters and ghosts. They are our friends. They're not here to do harm. They're not mean, and this film definitely plays along that same way of thinking.
Absolutely. Well, on the other end of the story spectrum, I was gonna go with Love, Simon.
Hmm.
And I know there's been other gay coming of age movies in the last 10 years, and this came out in 2014, so really the last 6 years we're talking. But
Right.
I feel like there probably wasn't that many before this, and
Right.
there's been more since, and
Right.
so I just think that's kind of the most popular, most well-known one that I thought of when thinking about any other movies like that have come along. And like we had mentioned earlier, of course, it's not exactly spelled out that that's exactly for sure what this is, but I think it's pretty clear that it is.
Yeah, I did want to say, for the people that that they hear that and that turns them away,
Hmm.
not at all.
Right.
It's very, I mean, it's there. It's almost like if you don't want it to be there, it's not even there. I mean, really.
There's only 3 ghost sex scenes in the whole thing.
Well, so here's the thing. It's so not that's why I didn't. One of my puzzle pieces, I did think of Brokeback Mountain, and then I scratched it off because I'm like, you know what,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't quite go there. But no, I mean, it's more about friendship. It is
Yes.
obviously one gay character who really loves the other character who is straight, who
Yeah.
he has a sex scene. Well, not really, but a partial sex scene with a girl,
Sure.
which I thought that part was hilarious because she says, "Okay, no penetration," then proceeds to put his penis in her mouth. I think I think when you say no penetration,
I I
that's off the
hey,
table.
I did that's her prerogative.
That part always gets me. I'm just like, wait, okay. Anyway, so, sorry to digress there, but yeah, there's straight
Uh,
sex in this movie.
yes, a little bit. So, any last one you wanna bring up before we close it up?
Well, what I want to say though is that she has a rock collection. Okay, she
Mm,
collects rocks. I love that. I thought that was fantastic. She has
that's pretty cool.
those shelves with the rocks on display. And then of course the part where Jamie goes nuts and he's like throwing the rocks all over the room, and then he's like, "Sorry, I messed up your rocks." I don't know. I just love the whole rock collection thing. I think one, because I am a collector myself, not of rocks, but of things in general, whether it
Mm,
be Funko Pops, whether it be Blu-ray DVDs. I just a collector who's always been a collector.
sure,
I think that to have a collector who actually collects rocks, and then that being an aspect of this film, because what that basically says about her as a person is that since it's rocks, is that she sees the beauty in things that people just walk over
sure.
constantly. And I think that plays a lot into her character, and I just really love that part of the film. So, what I was going to say though, as far as a another piece, because well, uh, what did we call these missing pieces? These are
Yes.
okay. Because I was thinking about the whole guilt thing, and um, I just thought of this is one I've mentioned before, but thank you for your service. Just the whole aspect of survivor's guilt.
Mhm.
It's when somebody else dies and you could have very easily have seen it be yourself, especially
Sure.
if it's lots of people in the military deal with this. I think people that are surviving victims of school shootings and things like that have that as well. I think the way that was explored in this film was done in a way I haven't seen before, as far as Jamie Marks is dead. And again, it's just one of the many elements that's in this film for people to, peel away and unravel. But just in thinking of films that have come after, I just Thank You for Your Service was one that dealt with that as well. That I thought does a good job as well. You've got somebody who continues on and who is living, who is basically a complete depressive mess because he is alive and others aren't.
Right, exactly.
So I think dealing with guilt, also friendship in general, and love, and just accepting other people and how they are and who they are. I think those are all just great themes that are in this film, that just makes it a really wonderful movie that like I said, I don't think a lot of people do know about. So.
Last thing I want to say before we close it up is when you first sent me the name of this movie and I looked it up, I immediately imagined that one of our puzzle pieces would be Drop Dead Fred. And I'm glad to say that that's not what this movie ended up being at all. So,
we didn't even mention though that Liv Tyler's in this. So.
Oh yeah, and she's good in it too.
That's the star power.
There you go.
That's where they probably most of their budget went to getting her in it.
I would imagine so.
But no, overall, it is a great cast. Though I think everybody in it is pretty strong at what they do. So
absolutely. So, Chad, you got something else you'd like to recommend that you watched recently?
Yes, actually, and it plays into it. I was going to use this as a missing piece, but then I was like, no, it'll be my recommendation. That's the Big Time Adolescence, which is on Hulu. It's a Hulu film, Hulu original, and about basically a stoner. He's like a teenager who's dating this girl. He befriends her little brother, and it jumps ahead. Here he is. He's like a 20-something, maybe 30-something loser slacker, and he's still hanging out with this kid who now this kid is a teenager. So it's just a interesting odd couple bromance. That it's a lot of fun. It's not at all serious in any way like this. I thought of Project X, and it's just basically a good comedy. But I thought it fit in good with this movie though, to use as a recommendation. Again, like
Beautiful.
I said, it's on Hulu.
Awesome. Well, Chad, as always, thanks so much for being here. And today, when we're recording this, it was just announced. Well, not announced. It's rumored that they're considering a Wonder Woman 1984 direct VOD release because of everything happening in the world. So if that happens, we're gonna have you back for that, of course. But
see,
otherwise, we'll get you for something else. So.
And I am so torn on that, because if this means that we'll get it sooner, I am happy. But I want it to make enough money, so they need to charge like $50. They need to charge like $100. I mean,
right.
I mean, seriously, I'll pay
$20
is
not enough.
I will pay
for that box office.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be a mess.
No, it is. It is. So we'll see. Hopefully they don't, and hopefully they decide to wait it out and see what happens instead of just throwing it to VOD, because I think it's going to be a big hit. And let's just say by June, this is still going on. Just push it back till, November, December, push it back to next year. I mean,
Fast and Furious went to next year. Why not go to next year?
New Mutants, we've been waiting on it for 4 years. It's going to be 10 more years before I get to see it. So, I mean, push it back.
That is the message. I agree with it 100%.
I will pay $20 to see New Mutants, though.
Oh, God. Hey, thanks for being here.
Put it on VOD now. Right now. If it exists.
It doesn't exist.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled podcast to bring you an exciting announcement.
You love movies and TV. We know you do because you're spending your precious time listening to this awesome podcast.
And if you love this podcast, we've got another we think you might like.
I'm Shannon.
And I'm Phaedra.
And we are Stinger, the entertainment podcast.
We're two fangirls who love TV and movies just like you, and every 2 weeks we discuss what we're watching, from Netflix to Hulu to Amazon to network TV, movies we've seen, and what's coming up next in entertainment.
We hear so many people ask, what should I binge watch next? Or is that movie really worth seeing in the theater? If you have those questions, we're here for you.
And you can decide which one of us is right.
So check us out on your favorite podcast app, or you can listen on our website, stingerpodcast.com. Just search for Stinger Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Or connect with us on social media. We're Stinger Podcast everywhere.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Jamie Marks is Dead. If it was your first time watching the movie, or if you actually did see this back when it came out and you were like, hey, I remember that movie. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it here on the show for you. So as always, if you're enjoying the show, we would really love it if you'd rate and review us. 5 stars would be amazing. You could do that over on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. And of course, follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. Join the Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces. And as always, we love to hear from you. We really appreciate that you're all out there listening, and we got a whole lot more Piecing It Together coming your way. So we're going to keep doing the show, whether you get in touch or not, but we'd love it if you got in touch. We'd love it if you left us a review, and we'd love it if you follow us, and we'd love it if you'd share the show, and we'd love it if you join us on an episode one of these days. That would be great. Get in touch. We'd love to have you. So I think that does it for today. I'm going to close it out with a piece of music like I always do, and if you've been listening the last few weeks, you know that I have a new album out. It's available on iTunes, on Amazon Music, on Spotify. It's on all the digital music services. It's called Beater, Original Motion Picture Soundtrack, which features the film score that I did for this feature film called Beater, but also music from 6 other short films I did with the same director, Chris Johnson. And so there's a whole lot of music, an hour and 45 minutes of music. I'm really proud of this thing. A lot of really great music from these different films. And I think every week for the next few weeks, at least, I'm going to be playing selections from this album. And I think today I'm going to play, this is called Unrequited Reprise. It's from a film called Unrequited. It was actually the second film I worked with Chris Johnson on. And I think the feeling of this one's a good fit for this movie, Jamie Marks is Dead. And this was actually the music that plays over the end credits of the film and kind of reprises the main theme that happens earlier in the film. And so I hope you enjoy this track. And of course, the album is available if you want to go get that. And we will actually be putting out a special bonus album with even more tracks. This is already 34 tracks, but there's more because, 7 films total. That's a lot of films, a lot of music. So there's actually more coming. It's going to be on our Patreon. So if you want to go sign up for our Patreon, you're going to get this special bonus track album. But the main album is available for sale on iTunes, on Amazon, all that stuff. Or you could just stream it on Spotify, of course. But here's one of the tracks. It's, again, called Unrequited Reprise. And again, the album is called Beater, Original Motion Picture Soundtrack. Thanks for listening, as always, and we'll be back with more Piecing It Together coming up real soon.
and all points west.